Now I have just finished turning this down to the way you see it, using this scraper. You've seen me using it many times before. I'm going to try something different. I have modified this scraper. It used to be flat right across, straight right across, and I've slightly rounded it over. It's a real large radius, but it will nevertheless allow me to go like this. And my thinking is, when I'm going across like this, I should be able to more easily keep from having little ridges. Like even the 1-inch scraper, although it's a fairly large radius, it does leave little bumps. You just can't get it perfect. Now I realize I'm not going to get it perfect with this either, but it should work better. And I haven't tried it yet. So as I've said before, you're going to see it along with me for the first time. Now I do got to keep in mind here that I'm going to be, a lot more area there's going to be touching. And if it's going to have a tendency to break out anywhere, well, you know what I mean. Normally what I did in the past was I allowed the sandpaper to get rid of those little bumps. This did actually work quite well. Not perfect, but sure a lot better than the round nose scraper. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it down with sandpaper, get it ready to the place where we can do the CA thing. I'll start out at 220 and I'll work my way up to 1000. I would probably go finer than 1000, but that's the finest I've got. So anyway, you've seen me do that before, so I'll just go ahead and do it, and next time we'll see you at the CA process. Well, the sandpaper's done. Started out at 220, then 400, then 800, and 1000. And I did the horizontal sanding thing with each grit after letting it sand on the lathe. And right now it feels incredibly smooth. I'm turning at about 310 RPM right now, and you should remember these from before. And I'm going to turn on the room air cleaner just to keep the fumes from coming up in my eyes here. Now this first one I'm going to put it on a little bit heavy. And you will remember I'm not going to be using the accelerator. I think I'll leave that for about 5 minutes. Now I actually have something I have to do this afternoon, so I'm just going to let that thoroughly cure. We'll come back at it in a couple hours or so, if we have time. I would normally start out with 220, but I'm going to use 400 here because I don't want to find that I've quickly gone down into the bare wood, which should be fairly saturated with CA anyway. However, I'm not going to be pulling real hard. I'm going to turn a little slower than I usually do. I usually sand at about 1000 RPM. I'm going to slow it right down because it's a little bit uneven. Yeah, and I don't want to be building up any heat here. The idea is, you'll notice that the top here is nice and smooth. Well, the grit side will also be nice and smooth, or level rather. And it'll help to level off these little bumps that you see. At least that's the plan. So, here we go. Now I realize that I said I might only be doing the 400, but actually I went right up to 1000, and I did it the same way you just saw. Now my thinking with the compressed air was to try and force out any little pieces of sawdust that might be embedded in the pores that might come out later and sort of sit on top of the CA glue and sort of spoil the finish. At least that was my thinking. Don't know if it actually worked. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a very, very thin coat on. Just a little bit here. Now this is the second coat, and I may have not waited long enough for the first coat to, well, I guess it'd be the third coat actually, because I sanded the first one. Anyway, well, it feels pretty good now. When I touched it about 2 minutes ago while it was still turning, it felt just a little bit sticky. I'm going to give it a few minutes. Yeah.